find time in the day and around my family to fit it in. I spend a lot of time on the trainer just because I don't want to miss out on anything at home.
That Triathlon Show, episode 37. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to That Triathlon Show, the podcast presented by scientifictriathlon.com. I'm your host, Michael, and on today's episode, we are going to have another interview after a couple of solo episodes in the last few episodes. So it's good to have this bit of variety, and now we're going back to an interview format again. This time, my guest is Amy Farrell, who is an Ironman age group world champion, and she's working as a PE teacher, and she's a mom, and has a lot of things going on. So I Googled around to find some guests that would be relatable for listeners. So regular age groupers was what I was looking for, and with the aim of finding somebody who could talk about time management for age groupers. And I found Amy in an article on Ironman, and after she had won her age group at the World Championships in Kona, Hawaii, and she agreed to come on the podcast, which is great. And the interview is an interview that I think that many of you will be able to relate to, because, as I said, Amy works a full-time job, and she has a family, a mom, and other commitments outside of triathlon. And she talks a lot about not just trying to cram it all in, but finding balance and finding balance with the other areas of your life as well. So I'm sure that this is useful. This has been a requested topic from many of you, time management, and in surveys that I've done as well, time management is always one of the biggest issues that us age groupers face. And it's definitely my biggest issue personally as well. So I found a lot of use in this interview. So I'm actually in a bit of a hurry. I'm heading away from Helsinki today. The day that I record this is the 21st of June. I'm going to Gotland, which is a big island off the coast of Sweden, where I'll be participating in the NatWest Island Games, which is kind of like the Island Olympics. I don't know if I talked about this, but my home region of Finland is an island that is actually, geographically speaking, closer to Sweden than Finland, which is why I'm Swedish speaking as well. And anyway, so that island has partial autonomy. So a lot of islands like that, including Jersey, Isle of Wight, Bermuda, and what have you, Guernsey. You have a lot of islands that are participating. It's the biggest games after the Summer Olympics, even bigger than the Winter Olympics in terms of participants. And the triathlon is pretty competitive, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, anyway, I'm traveling to that race, and my boat back to Åland, where I will be traveling with the squad to Sweden and then to Gotland, which is the island where the games will be held this year, leaves in a couple of hours. So I'm just trying to keep this intro and the outro short. The interview was conducted yesterday, and you will be hearing this a week or so later. Anyway, I'll be back with you after the interview with some key takeaways. All right, on this episode of That Triathlon Show, I'm welcoming Amy Farrell to the show. Amy, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Really good. Just woke up, but slowly starting to get my brains working. So hopefully I won't say too many stupid things in this interview, but I'll let you do most of the talking.
Oh, good. So, well, I'm at the end of my day, so I'll probably sound a little confused too.
Yeah, actually, scientifically, you're probably worse off than me if you think about what research says about when your brain is working better and not working so good. So just to give the listeners a brief background of who you are, what do you do at the moment, and what's your triathlon journey been like so far in your life?
Ooh, okay. Well, I just turned 40 a couple weeks ago. So this weekend I just did my first race in that new age group at Syracuse 70.3. But I started triathlon when I was 23. I did, Kona was my first Ironman, and I got blown off my bike there, but finished fourth in my age group. And then the next year I did Ironman Lake Placid and qualified for Kona again, but I got blown off my bike in Kona and DNF'd. So that was 2002 was my last Kona. And then I raced 1 year as a pro, and then decided it was time to get married and start a family. And I worked for several years and got away from triathlon and got back into it in 2009 when they started. I hadn't heard about 70.3 Worlds, and I love the half Ironman distance, so I got back into it to do 70.3 Worlds. And that year I won my age group, and I brought my daughter Ruby along with me, so that was pretty fun. But then, let's see, I got out of the sport for a couple more years after that, and then when they started doing 70.3 Worlds in Vegas, I thought that would be a fun thing to do. But I got there, and it was really crazy hot, and after I think I finished 4th in my age group at 2012 70.3 Worlds. But it was so hot that I figured that I should go back to Kona because Kona was about 30 degrees cooler, and I could handle it. So in 2013, I qualified for Kona and at Eagleman 70.3. So Kona was my first Ironman in like 10 years, and I was 4th in my age group that year and went back the next year and won my age group. And then in 2015, I won Ironman Lake Placid, and let's see, last year I won Ironman North Carolina, and now I'm qualified for Kona for 2017.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. And that's how I found out about you from your winning your age group at Kona. I was just basically Googling around for athletes that are managing jobs and training on a high level for triathlon, basically time management, because that's one of the most requested topics that I get for the show. And your name popped up in an Ironman article that we'll link to in the show notes as well. And as you say, you're now no longer racing pro, you're an age grouper, and you have a job and a family. So talk a little bit more about that. What do you do for a living, and what does your family life look like?
Okay. Well, I'm a physical education teacher here in Tupper Lake, New York, and I also coach our high school's cross-country and indoor track teams. I coach a few triathletes, and for the last 7 years, I have owned and run a seasonal motel. So that's been quite an adventure that hopefully we're coming to the end of. I wasn't doing triathlon when we bought the motel, and then I really got back into it, and that's my true love, not cleaning motel rooms. But I have a 13-year-old daughter and a husband, and they are both sort of adrenaline junkies. My husband coaches snowboarding, and my daughter is a mogul skier. She also runs and plays volleyball, and we have 4 dogs, so there's always a lot of stuff going on, and not a lot of sitting still here.
So what does a typical day look like for you?
I get up really early, usually for a bike or a run. Then when it's like in the fall, when it's peak Ironman time, I get up about 3:30, 3:45, spend some time on the bike before work because I only have a small window to work out between school and practice with my cross-country team. So I do that. Swimming-wise, I usually have to stay in the lakes up here almost until the beginning of October because we don't have a lot of pools around, so it's about an hour round trip to get to a pool. So swimming, I'm usually in the lake until October. So it's I'm up pretty early and also up kind of late too. But I just kind of find time in the day and around my family to fit it in. I spend a lot of time on the trainer just because I don't want to miss out on anything at home, and if my husband's working, I don't want to be too far away from my daughter if she needs anything. So lots and lots of trainer time, lots of treadmill time.
So do you work out mostly in the morning, and then how long do you work for during the day, and what do you do in the evening? Do you have a second workout in the evening often, or is that time reserved for family?
Well, I work from 7:30 until about 3 o'clock, but I have a period where I monitor our school's fitness room, so I do get to run a little bit there, and then I run with my cross-country kids. So usually there's another afternoon workout or an evening swim. And I try and find lifting in during my lunch break. I have 4 dogs, so I do a lot of running with them, either in the morning or the evenings.
And how long have you been working as a PE teacher for? Has that always been your career path for as long as you've been working?
It has. I started teaching adaptive phys ed my first year out of college. So there was 1 year that I spent working part-time jobs when I moved to the Adirondacks, but spent 17 years of teaching.
Okay. So you have become it's become a routine for you to fit all in around, because I guess that wherever you have been teaching, it has been kind of similar what you do and how you can do it.
Yes, and I've been lucky to have principals and coworkers that are very supportive and understanding about me leaving for races or getting on the treadmill before school is out. So that's been nice. How
long do you sleep each night if you get up at that early hour?
Well, I'm up that early probably 3 or 4 days a week. So I'm not a big sleeper. My mother's not a big sleeper, so I feel like it's kind of our thing. So I'm like 6, maybe 7 hours if I'm lucky.
But you don't feel any detrimental effects from it. You feel refreshed when you wake up and so on, or?
Yeah. It takes a little coffee in the morning, but but my energy level is typically good.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So are there some things that are on a big picture overview of time management that you have found to be the most useful in getting all your training in and training at a high level throughout your triathlon life, whether it's now racing at an age group level or when you were racing pro?
Well, it's so different now. When I was racing pro, I think I was 24, 25 years old. So recovery and really taking care of myself wasn't that hard. But now I probably go to the chiropractor every couple of weeks. And I've got a great chiropractor that takes good care of me. So that's something that's important. Sitting down and getting in the recovery boots is good because then I'm locked in for 30 minutes. I have to sit down. And my family is pretty understanding about helping out with.
Do you use Normatec recovery boots?
No, I can't afford those because I'm a public school teacher. I actually have an off-brand from Amazon.
Okay, and you find that they work?
Yeah, they were, I think, less than $300, but once
I think that a Normatec will be too expensive for even the CEOs listening, or many of them. So it's interesting to hear about alternatives to them, because I've read up on that kind of technology, and it seems really solid.
Yeah, and it's funny because this summer before I went back to school, I was training for Ironman North Carolina, and I guess I was getting some better recovery than when I went to school and I was standing all day. But once I got back to school, I was like, I have to order a pair of those boots. And it really does help. And I think part of it is just getting a solid 30 minutes of sitting still. But I have a few friends that have ordered different off-brands and they've had great luck with them. So
yeah. So yeah, sorry, I interrupted your listing some other main things that you have found important. So did you have anything else that you were about to talk about?
For me, I think the biggest thing is not taking it too seriously. My coach is very understanding and he knows that my family comes first. So if there's a day when I have to adjust a workout or I can't get it in, because I want to do something with my daughter or be there for something important with the family, then that takes priority. And the first couple of years that I got back into Ironman distance racing, it was really hard for me to figure that out. But now, if she has a sleepover, and I have a long ride, I'll get on my trainer and stay inside so I can be here to make pancakes in the morning. But I really think, realizing that triathlon is something that we do for fun and not really. It is a pretty central part of my life, but it's not the driving force.
Yeah, and it might cause additional stress if you don't have that balance. That is, even though you maybe get more training in and like can train at a pro level, quote unquote, the extra stress that it causes you if you don't have that balance might just cause you to not absorb the training the way you should anyway. So I think that's a very important point to make, that you need that balance and in your life to actually be able to get anything out of the training.
Yeah.
So you have a coach. How long have you been coached?
Well, I actually hired my first triathlon coach, I think about 9 months before my first race. So right out of college, I found someone who is this woman, Martha Grinnell, who was a pro triathlete at the time. And she was an amazing mentor, and I worked with her for about 3 years. And so since I came back this time, I've been working with my coach, Julio German, since 2011. And it's been really fun because one of my teammates and I are kind of the guinea pigs. So it's been neat to see the evolution of his programs and the different stuff that he's trying out with us.
Is he local to you, or is it mostly remotely that you do?
He's about 5 hours away. So most of my training I'm doing either alone or I have a pretty trusty running dog that I do most of my running workouts with. But my team, there's a pretty large team down in Westchester, New York. So they're about 5 hours a day away. And I get down there occasionally to train with them, but mostly it's remotely.
Okay. Is coaching something that you've found actually gives you some time back that you would otherwise use to plan out your training? Or because I know that for me, at least, that's one of the main things that I found that actually surprised me a bit, or I hadn't thought about it when I first got a coach, that, hey, this frees up so much time that I would usually have spent planning out my training in meticulous detail, many hours per month, many hours, and now I'm free. Is that something that you've found as well?
Yes, and I just like I like having to be accountable to somebody else, because I have a few athletes that I coach myself. So I am still writing the programs, but I like the stuff that he comes up with, and I feel like he's a little bit more innovative with my programs than I would be with myself, and definitely pushes me a little further than I would do. But it's just a great relationship, and yeah, I think time-wise, I would probably second-guess myself all the time, so I'd always be rewriting the program.
How much training do you do when you prepare for an Ironman, for example? What's your weekly volume?
Probably 20 to 22, 18 to 22 for the peak weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what does that training consist of in terms of intensity and easy, longer stuff? Can you give a brief overview of that?
So usually I do 4 rides a week. 2 of them are higher quality, the long ride, and then a midweek high quality ride. Running wise, I run 4 days a week, and 2 of them are pretty high quality. And then swimming when I'm doing open water swimming, which is mostly June to October, is just getting out in the lake and trying to push myself and stay in as long as I can.
Okay. So, but all of them you're always trying to push yourself then, because swimming it's easy to just plod along and not really get any faster or even lose fitness if you have a high baseline level. But you're actually, even though you maybe not have specific sets there that you're doing in the open water in the lake, you're really trying to go hard. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes. A lot of times that doesn't work, and I do just plod along, but it's swimming is definitely a challenge of mine.
So when you mentioned that you coach other athletes as well, do they have, or I guess they do have similar like issues that all of us age group triathletes have with managing their time? What do you tell them about? How do you support them to try to fit it all in and find a good balance?
That's a great question, because we've really been dealing with that a lot with I have 2 athletes doing their first Ironmans, and family always comes first, because you don't want to, if you're out on the bike and you're feeling guilty or you feel like you should be with your family, then your mind isn't there, and it's hard to get your body there and stay on the bike for 5 or 6 hours. So they know that it's not the end all be all, and they'll get the work in, and they'll be fine on race day. So I've been really trying to impart that to my athletes, is that, if they're out there and they're not feeling good about it and they want to be with their families, then that's where they should be. So sometimes there's long trainer rides.
Yeah. I think that's fairly common, and people with families just need to get used to that, and you will get used to that and find ways to make it work, find something entertaining on Netflix or something and get through it. But it's a bit of a compromise, of course, if you have to do those long trainer rides, but then again, it is so much faster, not just that you can train for a bit shorter than you would otherwise, because it's more effective since you're not coasting at all. Yep. And then also not having to clean your bike after a rainy ride or anything, so much less prep going into it and after the ride as well.
Yep. Yeah, you don't have to stop and figure out where to get water. You can line up 6 water bottles and be fine. So a lot of time, and I mean, my coach writes some pretty good workouts. So usually a 5-hour ride inside, doesn't really bother me.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
And I do love the Netflix. So
yeah. What's your favorite show on Netflix, or do you watch films more than shows?
Shows. Well, last year, training for North Carolina, I think I went through all of Gilmore Girls, and that was a really good one because I have a teenage daughter. Some of them Parenthood I got really into, but then I would start crying on the bike, so I had to stop watching that. So I have to play around with it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's actually covered lots of what I wanted to go through in terms of time management. And also I was going to ask you about the mindset around, do you have anything? I mean, one thing that's clear is that part of the mindset is definitely finding that balance, and family comes first. That's been clear. Do you have anything else in terms of the mindset around training that you have found that you use and that helps you get the training done?
A huge thing for me is the idea that this is something that we get to do. We don't have to do it. And you really do have to have fun with it. I feel like I've worked in retail with triathlon quite a bit, and I feel like people come in and we're amateurs. This isn't our job. So don't take it too seriously and have fun with it. So I think that's a pretty important thing that I've always found, even as a runner in high school. I was on a start line with one of my best friends, and I was all nervous, and she said, "Amy, this isn't the Olympics." And it totally changed my perspective going into the race. And I think the have to versus get to is very important.
Yeah, and try to get to that point and realizing that before you have a serious injury or something, because that's only after I was out for 9 months from running when I realized that endurance sport is something that I get to do, since I started to realize that after missing it for so long. And obviously it would have been better to realize it all along, but and hopefully the listeners can try to get to that point before they have that kind of injury and really start to miss the training and everything that comes with it. Yeah. Any other parting pieces of wisdom for time management for the listeners of the show that you have?
Just don't be afraid to wake up too early.
Yeah, no, that's a great advice. And I was just a couple of days ago talking about this with one of my athletes, and also that the quality generally is, but at least when you compare like training at 5 a.m. in the morning versus 8 p.m. in the evening, that's definitely the former one is the preference, because the body goes to sleep.
It's so hard to get on a bike or try and do a quality run, and I just can't get myself to do it. And occasionally I do have to, but knocking it out early is usually the best bet. It's funny, my athletes that are training for Lake Placid came to Syracuse to watch some of us race last weekend, and they headed out for their 100-mile ride at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I have so much respect for them, because I think it's so much harder to do it that way, and they got their work done. So I was a proud coach.
Yeah, that's right. And one thing that I could add about this getting up early is for people saying that they're not morning persons and having a hard time getting their head around getting up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or at any early hour that they're not used to, just try to wake up for 10 days at that early hour, and then after that you will be a morning person, because you will by default be so tired at 10 p.m. that you can't stay up until midnight that maybe you have been used to. So that will definitely make you a morning person, and then you'll definitely get used to it fast.
Yeah.
And another thing that I would add is that a wake up light that gradually increases the level of light in your room. That's a great way to wake up and feel refreshed. I found that has worked wonders.
Yeah, but that's funny what you say about 10 p.m. because at 10 p.m. that's where my daughter and my husband are both like, "You need to go to bed." They know.
Okay, thanks, Amy. I just have 3 rapid-fire questions for you before we end this interview. Okay. So let's start with, what's your favorite book, blog, or resource related to triathlon?
So I have 2 very good friends that have amazing blogs. Sonuek is gosanya.com, and then Mary Eggers. And they're the 2 women that whenever I have a question, that's who I go to first. So those are they're my people.
Yeah, that's good. Those are new. Yeah. We tend to get often quite similar answers, but those are new. They haven't been mentioned before. What's your favorite piece of gear or equipment?
I can't live without Hoka's anymore because I have a little arthritis in one of my knees. So probably Hoka Cliftons and Hoka Claytons. And
finally, what's a personal habit that's helped you achieve success?
I eat a lot of pizza.
What do you like on your pizza?
I'll do pretty much anything, but usually my pre-rice pizza is just cheese and mushrooms. But it's funny, so many people trying to get me to try these different diets. And I'm like, are you crazy? I couldn't eat pizza. Like, no, all the gluten.
Yeah, don't get on a diet bandwagon unless you have to. Agnostic healthy eating. We talked about that before on the show. I like pizza as well. I don't eat that too much, but after important races. So I actually was competing in this nationals for a sprint distance this last Saturday, and then after that I was. My sister was there supporting me, so I was giving her a ride back home, and she said that I can get my pizza from close to where she lives. And then I said, no, I want to get it from the place close to where I live because I like locally produced food. But that was weird, tongue in cheek.
That's great.
All right, thank you, Amy, so much for this interview. It's been great, and a requested topic, as I said, with time management and also some really important things about balance and prioritizing. So I think that the listeners will find this really helpful.
Okay, good. Yeah, don't take yourself too seriously. That's very important.
Don't take yourself too seriously. All right. Thanks, Amy. We'll talk to you later.
Okay,
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Hope you found that interview with Amy Farrell valuable. I think that it's great to have somebody like Amy on the show who is actually very relatable for most listeners, that does the whole full-time job and being a mom and parent and wife and everything while combining that with triathlon. And she does so at a very high level, but takes a very balanced approach to it and doesn't stress about it. So, it was a very, very, in my opinion, a very sound and sensible approach that she has to triathlon and to time management. And hopefully you can apply some of the knowledge that she imposed upon us in your own life, and you're getting your triathlon training done like in a manner that is balanced but still efficient and committed. So that's basically all that I have to say. My key takeaways from this episode were those that I just mentioned, and you will find the show notes on that triathlonshow.com. Again, since I'm traveling, they might be a day or two late, but they will be there. And of course, you can go back and have a look at show notes from previous episodes. Actually, the last few episodes on warming up and cooling down, I think they've been... I've enjoyed researching them and making those episodes. So I think that those are episodes that I would highly recommend that you go back and listen to. And then you go to the show notes and have a look at them, because there will be like great links. And on the warm-up episode, I will have those protocols for effective race warm-ups and so on. So I would highly recommend that you go and have a look at that. All right, so that's about it for this show. If you enjoy the show, I'd really love it if you send me an email and say hi and tell me that you like the show, because that is what keeps me going, the feedback that I get from you listeners. And of course, if you have any questions, you can ask them and I'll answer you on an email, but also hopefully, if it's okay with you, I can answer them on the podcast so that everybody can benefit. My email address is michael@scientifictriathlon.com, and that's Michael with a K. You can also follow me on Twitter and hit me up on Twitter, and my handle is @SciTriat. Thank you so much for listening. This show is nothing without you, the listener. Keep training smart and keep loving triathlon.